Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be discussing why at times spin stealing is a failure. Spin stealing is basically you use rubber and adjustment way you merge them together this way. Even if you light launch the way, it can still take spin from the right spinning opposite spinning way. So that's something is spin stealing in short words, taking taking the stamina or the power from the opposite way or the energy or the kinetic energy it produces in short. So that's spin stealing in moral words, something like that. In more words. So we're going to talk about why it's a failure. There's a lot of reasons I think it will be failure. So we're going to be starting with those reasons, and we're going to be starting. Wait, what? What? Guys, the first reason is launch style. Launch style is basically something like that, basically like frame meter in the anime uses like that. You have to have a precise launch style for the way you're using to spin it. Like basically if you're using extra speaker, you have to make sure it's balanced on the all sides and the driver is appropriate to its spin steering capabilities. And for Fafnir, it has the key driver and train Fafnir and all that. The it actually depends on the driver and the base balance all itself. You have to have an appropriate launch according to the bay itself, because spring is on both sides is equal, but you have to make sure that it's on balanced on both sides and you can stay still. So that is the one of the issues basically. If you have that, if you don't appropriately launch it, your stamina will just be dead in a few moments. Yeah, you need to make sure you have put enough power into it so that it can last till the other way makes contact. So there's one of the issues. Now we're on number 2, no contact. Why spin stealing is a failure? Because spin stealing is more apparent when a bay actually made contacts with the opposite way spin stealing. Like for the Fafnir, if it makes contact with, for example, if Finnish vessel makes contact with bay by bay, it may just get, it may just absorb its power. So that in turn is basically absorbing. But if Spectre uses flash launch and there's no contact, and that the last one is about to end, the spin is dying, and if it doesn't count as that, will not be counted as a spin, it will just count as nothing. But at times this happens that in battles, if you're spinning in the middle and the bay is spinning right then until you stop and till your stamina stop, the bay comes at last and hits you, that we stop directly. Like that, just basically that's what happens. At times basically stamina itself will be connected. So if it attacks the last point when the stamina is at the lowest point, there might be a chance that the other opposite spinning way, like the spin stealing might lose. So in turn there's a chance that the spin stealing way itself might lose. So spin stealing is a failure. Number 1, for the appropriate launching, you need appropriate launching. If you don't have it, you will fail. Number 2 was contact. And I mean bay contact. And basically you contact both the ways, the both ways hit and produce basically a clash. So that's number 2. Number 3, we are gonna be talking about what was number 3. Number 3, I forgot. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. One was launch. One was, and the third one is no counter. At the moment you spin steal, so there's no chance you can actually counter, because you don't have any spin stealing that you can go up against and act hard. Like basically if you're using a spin steal mechanism, but it's an especially and design attack type with so much movement that it can actually hit you so hard that it can bump you outside. There's a chance you might ring out at the moment you spin steal, because at times basically if you're like basically if they're one spike and like if one is using spin stealing, so other will know, so the other will try to launch as hard as you can so you can launch. And along with this, these two come basically, I want to merge these two reasons. One was no counter, the second one is already known by the opponent. For the people who actually use Valorant, they know that spin stealing, and if you're putting a hand like this, like spin stealing, so the other one absolutely know. If you lied on, they would know. So basically you can't it's not that good as of an option spin stealing at moments, because the other player that does not spin stealing is a thing, and there's a chance you might just get thrown out of the stadium for some reason. Because, for example, playback if five minutes spin stealing, and when the other opponent launches it with the hands, you can actually launch it so hard that at times basically you can actually push it out of the stadium by basically like restaurants. Restaurants is a way they can keep on attacking way till it starts to play or till for it to ring out. Restaurants is a method many used by wars in the anime, and you can also use in real life. So that's not something like that in this situation. But there's a point. The point is that it has no counter. No counter. And the other also knows that it can't counter much of the attacks. For example, playback has so much cover. So if you launch it so hard, and you see if this is my launcher, if I launch it super hard, so that is the point. The power of the other wave will be so hard. At times if you make contact, you can actually push the wave further, so that way it has to move around the stadium to gain recoil back in the middle, and at times there and there it stops in the middle. Basically if you hard hit the wave, it goes into the side and it moves round and round off balance and takes the middle, but at times it loses stamina while on the way. So that's the spin stealing confusion for people. The spin stealing is appropriate today as well, but it's not that main of thing, because of because it has no counter. Number number one was the because it has, because these two launch counter along, what was the other thing again, I forgot. It was the launch counter. So basically you don't have any counters on this thing, and at times the other knows what you're gonna do. So what's the point of using it when the other knows what you're gonna do? You have to make a supposedly a good combo for battling others. Basically, so this wraps up for now. And there were four reasons: appropriate launch. Then there were the two merge. The third one, I'm going to tell the third one first. The appropriate launch, no contact, no counter, and the other knows what you're already gonna do. So in today's times, I don't know specifically thing, but a lot of videos are making a spin chance, because basically if you make like basically drift as an amazing recoil combos, you can use spin stealing combos with it as well. But I will more absolutely assure you that spin stealing is just for a fun based thing. I don't know if you're appropriate for tournaments, because I don't know if they allow it, because at times the other way is just left spin and you can't spin steal and you're right spinning, so you can't just spin steal it like that. Spin stealing is for wrestling, especially like Fafnir. It has rubber all over it, and I think except for Wizard Family, that guy, the favorite is has loose clicks, so I don't know. So guys, these were the four reasons for these were the four reasons that spin stealing isn't recommended.